at number 10, we have the bloop. Now we're going to start off with probably one of the most famous. The bloop was an ultra low frequency sound detected in 1997. It was heard in the South Pacific Ocean, west of the southern tip of South America. Now some people thought it was the sound of a massive ocean creature. The only problem was it was several times louder than the loudest recorded animal, the blue whale. After studying the sound, geologists said it was the sound of a large ice quake. Other people still claim it came from an unknown creature. Next up at number 9, we have the bioduck. Now this one might sound like a cute name, but in the 1960s, this sound scared a lot of people when it was recorded around the coast of Australia. It was first picked up by submarines there during the winters. Now they knew it wasn't human made, but they'd also never heard an animal like it. That sound baffled and scared people for decades until in 2013 scientists figured out that it was the call of the Antarctic minke whale. It was nice to finally get an explanation for it, but that didn't stop people from being scared. Next up at number 8 we have Julia. Julia was a sound recorded by the National Ocean and Atmospheric Administration on March 1st, 1999. It lasted for 15 seconds and was so loud it was heard across the entire Pacific hydrophone array. The clip you're about to hear was sped up 16 times from the original speed. It's thought that Julia was the sound of an Antarctic iceberg running aground. Next up at number 7 we have the train. On March 5th, 1997, a hydrophone array picked up a sound that was loud, high in pitch, and kept steady for quite a few seconds. I think it kind of sounds like some sort of wailing ghost, but others gave it the nickname the train. See what you think. After studying the data, it was thought that the sound came from a very large iceberg running aground in Antarctica. At the number 6 spot, we have the 52 Hz whale, otherwise known as the loneliest whale in the world. This sound came from one very unique whale. Most whales call out between 10 and 40 Hz. Now this one whale has been detected since the 1980s, calling out at an incredible 52 Hz, the only ever recording at this pitch. Because of this, some people have dubbed it the loneliest whale in the world. At first people thought its strange call would hurt its own survival, but it's been many years now since they first heard it, and the 52 Hz whale is heard every year and seems to be doing just fine. Next up at number 5 we have the boing. In the 1950s, US submarines near California and Hawaii picked up a mysterious noise that sounded like nothing they had ever heard. They called it the boing, and I'm sure you can tell why by this. It made news all over the world, but its source was a mystery for 50 years until in 2002 when scientists said it was the sound of minke whales, again off the coast of Hawaii. Always the bloody minke whales. Coming in at number 4 now, we have Slow Down. Slow Down is an interesting one on this list because it's been heard many times. It was first recorded on May 19th, 1997. At first, it shocked listeners and many people thought it was the sound of a giant squid. Yes, a giant squid living deep below the ocean surface. It lasted 7 minutes and was called Slow Down because the frequency gradually decreased over time. It's been 20 years and it's still being detected. At the number 3 spot we have the upsweep. This was one of the first sounds recorded by the Pacific Marine Environmental Laboratory in 1991. It was loud enough to be heard across the whole Pacific Ocean. Now although it's heard every year without fail, scientists still aren't sure what exactly the sound is coming from, and the worrying thing is it's getting quieter every single year. It may eventually disappear and we'll never have known what caused it. Next up at number 2 we have the Star Wars noise. Now I know what you guys are thinking. How can anything in the ocean sound like something from Star Wars? I thought the same too, but then I heard this. It doesn't sound like anything natural, does it? That's why when it was detected, they thought it must have come from a ship. It was eventually identified as coming from dwarf minke whales. I'm beginning to think that all minke whales are pretty creepy, or fans of Star Wars. Alright, finally now we've reached the number 1 spot, and we have the whistle. Now this one is an underwater whistle, it's the creepiest one I've ever heard. It was picked up in the Eastern Pacific on July 7th, 1997, and has a very haunting vibe to it. See what you guys think. Scientists think that unlike a lot of the sounds on our list, this one wasn't caused by humans, animals, or even ice quakes. They think the whistle is the sound of an underwater volcano erupting. Personally, I hope they're right, because I don't like the thought of any creature making that noise. Did you know we know more about the surface of the moon than we do about parts of Earth's ocean floor? Ultimately, a lot of the explanations that we've given you for these sounds are just people's best guesses. It may take many years and even better equipment to fully uncover our ocean mysteries.
At number 10 we have an octopus nursery. 8-legged alien looking things with suction cups all over their arms and beaks for mouths. Octopus are creepy looking things, and to top it all off, they can camouflage like a Navy SEAL, and they are super smart. If these are the kind of things that make your skin crawl, then just running into one of these guys would probably freak you out. Well, on the underwater expedition at the Davidson Seamount, there was a rather shocking discovery. They had a remote probe that was on the ocean floor around 10,000 feet, and they came across which seemed to be an octopus that was next to not just one, not just two, but a group of 1,000 octopuses in a nursery. They were all there laying their eggs and using the heat from the volcanic vent to keep them warm. I would hate to be the guy who accidentally steps into that crack and then gets devoured by thousands of sticky arms. But if you're at 10,000 feet underwater, you probably are already screwed. At number 9 we have the Siberian lake monster. Of course, if we're doing a list of scary things that live underwater, we have to throw a giant mysterious sea monster on here. What separates the Siberian lake monster from other more popular guys that we have seen like Loch Ness and that kind of stuff is that underwater scans have actually picked this guy up. This thing is deep in Lake Labincourt, and some radar has shown that it looks like a 33-foot long creature is living there. Now this is probably just a skeleton, but if this thing is dead, it means that there was once a giant man-eating monster in this lake. I thought we were supposed to be safe in freshwater. They've nicknamed this thing the Devil, so you know he's a good time and loves company. So next time you go up to the cottage and you're swimming in the water and you feel safe, remember there might be a giant monster lurking underneath the water ready to turn you into a side dish. At number 8 we have the blue hole. Now there are several blue holes in the world. There's one in Belize, there's one in the Red Sea, there's a giant one in my heart that was left there from when Reboot ended on a cliffhanger. How are you going to end a show that so many people fell in love with on a cliffhanger? I will never trust again. Well, this one is between Cape Verde and the Caribbean islands. Scientists are really confused about this thing. It's a crack in the bottom of the ocean floor and is several thousand miles long. What's strange about this is there's no explanation of how this happened. It might have been tectonic plates moving around, but when this happened, the Earth will probably start to repair itself, and there's been no sign of this. My theory is this is where Godzilla goes to sleep at night. I mean, it seems like the most logical answer. It's either that or the gateway to hell. Like, come on guys, I'm doing real science work here. At number 7 we have the Yonaguni Complex. This was discovered by scuba divers in the 1980s. I think that's the scariest part about this one. Could you imagine going scuba diving back in the 80s? The technology back then must have been a tube going up to some guy who would blast fresh air down to you using a bicycle pump. I don't even think they had decompression sickness figured out back then. The chances of you coming up the bends was probably super high. Well, if it wasn't for a few divers in Japan who were willing to sacrifice it all to look at some cool stuff, we wouldn't know anything about the Yonaguni Complex. It's still a mystery as to what this thing is. It looks like some temples that might have existed thousands of years ago, but when the ice age decided to melt, it would have covered this entire area. This could be why an entire civilization got plunged underwater. Or the temple could have been on a cliff, and then when a massive earthquake hit, it knocked the temple into the water. But like everything in life, there are some haters who say this whole thing is just a natural rock formation. Some people just want to ruin everything. At number 6 we have Anacorra Cista Twista. One of the reasons why the underwater world is such a mystery is because we find things like this in there. Sure, there are beautiful things down there like bright fish and chubby marine mammals, but there's also the unknown, unidentified organisms like Anacorra Cista Twista, which should be the name of an 80s hair metal band. But what is this thing? Well, it's a protist. And what is a protist, you may ask? Well, it's an organism that doesn't belong to any animal group, fungus, or plant group. What does that mean? I really have no idea, you guys. I think it means it could be an alien. Some alien came down to Earth for a swim and then scraped its knee on some coral, and now we have alien creatures running around the ocean, probably waiting for you to pee so it can swim up your pee hole and then work its way into your brain. It's really the only logical answer. At number 5, we have the Bimini Road. How were the pyramids made? Was it aliens coming down to share their technology and secrets with us, or was it just thousands upon thousands of slaves who sacrificed their lives and their spines to build them? Well, we don't know and we may never know, but the Bimini Road is another one of these mysteries. It's off the coast of the Bahamas, and it looks like it could have been a pathway that was placed perfectly with giant slabs of rock. Similar to the way the pyramids were made, it seems that these large slabs of rock were too large to be moved by man, and also like the pyramids, these giant slabs were also perfectly placed so well. So where does everyone's mind go when something like this happens? Well, magic or aliens. The logical answer is that this is a natural phenomenon of the water moving and hitting the rocks to make these formations, but people think that this was made using advanced technology from aliens and could have been the road to Atlantis. Honestly, I like the Atlantis theory much better. It's more fun. At number 4, we have colossal squid. Yeah, this thing is a big no thanks for me. So everyone always talks about how there might be sea monsters out there, but this thing actually exists. There's never been one caught alive, but several have washed onto shores dead, and they are massive. The largest one ever discovered was 45 feet long, and it was dead. So you know there was an even bigger one out there that killed this guy. They don't even have suckers on their tentacles, they have hooks. Let me say that again. This squid has 10 giant arms covered in hooks. This thing is straight out of a horror movie. Scientists aren't even sure what something this big eats. They think it probably feeds on whales or your deepest darkest fears. I wouldn't be surprised if the colossal squid works part-time as a gatekeeper for hell. It makes me think that the old Greek stories about the Kraken might have been real. At number 3, we have underwater circles. Giant formations of circles that are formed underwater and nobody knows how they got there. These mysteries were discovered off the coast of North Carolina, Florida, and Belize. Now what are they? Like many things on this list, myself and the entire scientific community have no idea. But here are some theories. Maybe they were formed naturally by either two things, water currents or some sort of animal mating ritual. Another idea is that these things were made by ancient civilizations before the Ice Age. All these things would have been above ground and might have been art left over by some old-timey tribes. And the third theory is that they look kind of like a bullseye, so it might be some sort of nuclear missile target, and if you hit it hard enough, the explosion will cause some sort of major natural disaster like an earthquake or tsunami, or if we're lucky, both. At number 2, we have Megalodon. If you have a fear of sharks, you're gonna love this one. Megalodon was a prehistoric shark that was even bigger than the giant hooked tentacle beast that was earlier on this list. If you've already forgotten about the colossal squid, it clocked in at around 45 feet long, where Megalodon was closer to 60 feet long. It was a 60-foot shark that could probably rip a blue whale in half in one bite. Well, maybe not that, but it was still a gargantuan creature with teeth the size of Brock Lesnar's fists. This thing wouldn't even chew you, it would just swallow you whole and then fart your skeleton out into the dark cold ocean. At number 1 on our list, we have Giant Eyeball. A mysterious giant eyeball washed onto the shore of a Florida beach back in October of 2012. I don't know any other kind of giant eyeball other than a mysterious one. There's no super common regular giant eyeball just lying around. But this is also Florida. This is the state where people smoke crack at weddings and kiss alligators on the lips, so maybe it's a little more common over there. Well, this giant eyeball was found by Gino Cavacci, and he didn't know what the hell to make of it, so he took it home and then stuck it in his freezer. Then he called the cops, and the cops came in and told him, "We don't do giant eyeballs on the beach. You have to call the wildlife people." And then he called the wildlife people, and they were like, "What the hell is that?" And he was like, "I don't know, I brought it to you guys to try and figure out what it is." And then some people were like, "Maybe it's a sea monster," and other people were like, "No, it's probably from a marlin." And I think in the end, no one really knew what the hell it was. But just so you know, there's giant eyeballs out there just laying around the beach sometime.
Number 10, Socotra Island. Socotra Island has been surrounded by mysteries and myths since the time it was discovered. Between the Horn of Africa and the Arabian Peninsula, the legends of the island date back all the way to ancient times. The reason it's so often spoken about is due to the strange abnormalities on the island. It's weird, and people like that stuff. That's why you're here. It is full of flora and fauna that don't exist anywhere else in the world. One of the most iconic trees is something called the dragon's blood tree. It kind of looks like somebody took like a evergreen tree and like gathered all the pins and needles to the top and it's all veiny. It's so weird. Mysterious mists and bleach white sand flow over the isolated island in ways no one can explain. The island is also host to a wealthy collection of spiders, no thank you, reptiles and birds, many of which are native and endemic to the island. It certainly is like no other place on Earth, with many secrets still yet untold. Number 9. Siphonophore. We know that there are some pretty gnarly creatures that live in the Big Blue, and adding to that list we have the Siphonophore. Check out this guy.
Oh, how cool. What? I mean, oh my gosh.
This creature was discovered 2,000 feet below the Indian Ocean by a robot exploring a canyon. At first glance it kind of looks like a piece of trash, maybe like a toilet brush attached to like a plastic bag or several. It has many working parts, all with a different job. It can even glow if it wants to. Some parts of its body can catch prey, digest food, reproduce, and others of course swim. Busy dudes. They can grow up to lengths of 40 meters, which is longer than a blue whale, which by the way is Earth's biggest animal. However, in terms of width, it's only about as wide as a broomstick. What's even crazier is that in 2020, the year when the world shut down, scientists still discovered the longest version, 150 meters, making it the longest creature ever discovered. Number 8. Mahabalipuram. The early life of Mahabalipuram is shrouded in mystery. Though it was once part of the Pallava dynasty that ruled over part of southern India between the 3rd and 9th centuries AD. But prior to this, legends allude to the first king Bali, Mahabali, sacrificed himself to the 5th avatar of Vishnu, after which he became enlightened. Based on discoveries made by excavators, this spot was really active in the trade of goods and other artifacts, even having trade with the Romans. It was a hub of culture, art, and literature full of thriving life. One of the biggest attractions was the complex series of temples called the 7 Pagodas of Mahabalipuram. However, today only one of the 7 can still be seen, as the others are submerged underwater. Other legends say that the god Indra became jealous of the architectural elegance and caused flooding in order to submerge the city, which may very well be the reason it's beneath the waves today, due to the wrath of the gods. Number 7. A mysterious chest. Where'd my scarf go? It's in the chest, it's in the ocean. Beneath the waves and the swells of the Indian Ocean, there's a mysterious chest that could contain treasure for all humanity. Or evil. Who knows? Underwater snaps of the chest show that it belongs to a cargo ship from the 1800s. The trunk was discovered during a search for the missing MH370 flight that went missing, but they found 2 shipwrecks instead, so they're like, wow, shipwrecks, not people. At first they got really excited when they came across the debris field, thinking that they had finally found the missing craft. But then they found out they were pirate ships and they're like, wow, exciting! Even more mysterious though is that the WA Maritime Museum has no records of the ships, thinking that it may have been a ship lost at sea and everybody died on board. However, whatever is in the chest remains to be seen, and the search for the missing plane continues. Number 6. The oldest tsunami victims. Over 1,000 years ago on the east coast of Africa, there was a Swahili fishing village bustling and busy along their day. But then all of a sudden, a tsunami devastated the village. Based on findings published in National Geographic, revealed a macabre discovery. They found a site in Tanzania that is the first and oldest tsunami deposit bearing human remains found in East Africa. The oldest human remains in a tsunami deposit was also found in the Indian Ocean just across the way, in Papua New Guinea, and is 7,000 years old. However, this tsunami doesn't appear to have been that big. But I mean, a tsunami is a tsunami, you know? It's a big deal, either way. But because the people lived so close to the ocean and they were on the other side of it, they would have had no warning. No earthquake to hear that it was coming. So, poor guys. Number 5. The lost city of Krishna. For all the Atlantis fans out there, sadly it wasn't that. But just because it wasn't doesn't mean it wasn't, I don't know, cool. In my opinion, it's cooler because it's real. For a long time, people in India considered Lord Krishna's city of Dwarka a myth, until all of a sudden, it wasn't. Indian scientists finally discovered the lost city had been submerged off the northwestern coast of India. It is now one of the best studied underwater sites and has become a famous attraction. It is even considered one of the 4 dharmas, a sacred place of pilgrimage and worship. Lord Krishna founded the holy city and numerous stone structures still remain. Research suggests that it used to be the busiest port town before it sunk beneath the waves over 4,000 to 5,000 years ago. Number 4. The Gondwana pieces. A mysterious ancient continent called Gondwana was discovered in the Indian Ocean, and scientists were stoked. It was an ancient supercontinent formed over 500 million years ago. It broke up about 180 million years ago into the landmasses that make up Africa, South America, Australia, Antarctica, the Indian subcontinent, and the Arabian Peninsula. Researchers are only discovering that there were microcontinents beneath basalt rocks when they found fossils. They were like, whoa, wait, animals used to live here? What is this thing? This discovery could mean that previously established beliefs about how the plate tectonics broke apart could be shattered, just like the continent was over hundreds of millions of years ago. Number 3, a transformer. I feel like the ocean is a perfect spot for aliens to vacation, you know? Like, why not? Tons of scenery, plenty of food, opportunity to pull pranks on humans. Why the heck not? It's perfect. So when this was discovered, everyone was shocked, except for me, because I don't know if I can be surprised on this channel anymore. When a new species turns up, the first thing the world says, it's aliens! But this very well may be a new creature in the crazy world that lives beneath the waves. However, you have to admit the footage is pretty bizarre. It looks like a creature is literally transforming itself 3,700 feet below. It becomes more active and starts swimming around the craft almost as if it's teasing them. I don't know, friends, let me know what you think in the comments down below. New octopus or alien, friends? Both. Number 2, Diego Garcia. Now I know this wasn't technically recovered, but it sure is terrifying. The island of Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean has a murky and mystery past that the CIA doesn't like to talk about. It may have been their secret prison where they tormented their captives. The US government has persistently denied claims that it operated a secret war on terror within the confines of the island, but that wouldn't be the first time or last time they lied about something. A Swiss senator by the name of Dick Marty was the one who produced a detailed report alleging the torment that happened on the island. Marty told the European Parliament, "We have received concurring confirmations that United States agencies have used Diego Garcia, which is the international legal responsibility of the UK, in the processing of high-value detainees." Processing was in quotations, so you can only imagine what that was hinting at. Number 1, a mysterious glow. The Milky Sea has been a phenomenon for ages, but as of yet, no one has quite been able to explain it. Jules Verne even wrote about the Milky Sea in his famous novel 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. The legend of the Milky Sea became just that when sailors would come in from sailing. They'd be like, whoa, did you check out this weird sea that we came across? It was crazy. But they'd be like, dude, you're nuts. Even in modern times, scientists dismissed it because the level of bacteria needed to create that would be colossal and they considered that impossible. Yet it exists. Essentially, it's a glowing part of the Indian Ocean with an unknown source which remains under debate. The leading theory is that it has to do with large collective of bioluminescent fish plankton hanging about. The reason it was proven was that Steve Miller checked a British merchant vessel that reported seeing it in January 25th, 1995, and I quote, "On a clear moonless night while 150 nautical miles east of the Somalian coast, a whitish glow was observed on the horizon and, after 15 minutes of steaming, the ship was completely surrounded by a sea of milky white color. It appeared as though the ship was sailing over a field of snow or gliding over the clouds." Miller used the Defense Meteorological Satellite Program, DMSP, and its polar orbiting satellites to detect this ethereal event. He matched the coordinates recorded by the ship to the date, and then he found it when he actually just waited and watched for it. The glowing spot spanned 15,400 kilometers of glowing Indian Ocean for 3 nights in January.